Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As you already know, this is your U.S. General 5-drawer tool cart with side tray and deep compartment. Today is Thursday. As you can see, we still over at the storage unit, still getting to it, still getting busy as always. All right. In this particular segment right here, what we're going to do is we're going to take a good look at the Milwaukee brand. All right. When it comes to some thin wall, deep impact socket sets, just as well as we're going to take a look at a couple of features, along with a few other sockets. All right. But as I always state, as usual, I always keep my signature lingering somewhere in the background. My Dunkin' Donuts coffee. You already know. Okay. So pretty much I'm about to get some items to the top of the tool cart. We're going to take a good look at a few things. All right. Get a couple of visuals. So walk with me. Let's get it. Okay, as you can see, I basically now have a blow molded case sitting out at the top of the tool cart. And what you're looking at is a 1/4 inch thin wall deep impact socket set, which comes along in this blow molded case. This is by the brand of Milwaukee right here. This set right here is ranging from 5.5 millimeter to 15 millimeter. Okay, I have this set for quite some time now. All right, and this is basically, how the set would testically look right here, just as well as it does come with a 1/4 inch hex adapter, which you would see here. Okay, I have this set as a primary go-to set when it comes to 1/4 inch drive and impacts. I do have a large selection of impact sockets, ranging from Tecton to Gray Pneumatic, Stillman Pro, Snap-on, Mako, Craftsman, all right, and gear wrench just as well, especially when it comes to 1/4 inch drive. But the issue is that a lot of those particular brands, whether off brand or tool truck brand, doesn't necessarily provide the thin wall sets. Most of the impact sockets are testically thick. Okay, these are considered to be deep impacts, okay, but these are more at a semi length, as you can see here. Okay, testically compared to a normal standard deep impact. And as you can see at its lip, it's machined a certain type way. Okay, as you can see that they are thin wall, they are 6-point metric. When it comes to Milwaukee impact socket sets, which all the impact sockets are in thin wall. Okay, the only set that is not in a thin wall, which comes in 6-point metric, is the Shockwave Duty 3-piece lug nut socket set. Okay, I actually do have that set. It is a rare set to have here in the United States. Okay, when it comes to the 1/4 inch and SAE standard and metric, Milwaukee does provide that set. The problem is that it's not distributed and it's not issued over here in the United States. There are other Milwaukee authorized dealers overseas who actually have this particular 1/4 inch set and ASCE standard. Now, when it comes to the 3/8 drive in the Milwaukee thin wall, deep impacts, okay, in 3/8 drive, over here in the United States, they only distribute them in SAE standard. They do actually have them in metric, but once again, they're distributed by manufacturers overseas. Okay, some of these authorized dealers that are overseas, they technically do not ship to the US. So if you do come across an authorized dealer overseas that's willing, to ship to an individual over here in the United States, you'll be, more enough fortunate. Just as well as how I did receive a 3-piece Milwaukee lug nut Shockwave Duty impact socket set, which is a 6-point metric, and the sockets are not thin walled, they're actually type thick. Okay, when it comes to the 1/2 inch drive in thin walls of these impact sockets, they also distribute them here in the United States in SAE standard, which once again they also do have in metric, but they do not distribute them here in the United States. They distribute them overseas. by other authorized dealers and sellers. The Milwaukee three-piece impact duty shockwave lug nut socket set that I actually have in my equipment, that was an item that was basically sent to me from Australia from an authorized Milwaukee dealer over there. When it comes to this YouTube platform, I believe I'm the only individual here in the United States that's been able to produce those particular lug nut socket sets in a video. You know, if you were to contact Milwaukee over here in the United States, or you go on a Milwaukee online site, you will not even see these lug nut socket sets. Okay, they will tell you that, you know, they cannot produce them to you here, and that they do have them, but you would have to get in contact with other authorized dealers overseas. And, you know, once you start to do your research and you start to look more further into it, you will see that, you know, that they are technically kind of hard to get over here in the United States. All right. So, you know, these sets that I have here, you know, I use these thin wall sets in underbody applications. All right. Some techs and some individuals, they don't like to technically always use thin wall sockets because they are more prone and more or less likely, you know, to fail or crack or get damaged. But I would assume that more on a half-inch drive applications, because, you know, a half-inch drive application, you're going to tend to put a whole lot much more torque, a whole lot much more force applied, you know, to the socket, and depending upon what you have it locked on, whether it's a ratchet or an impact wrench. Okay. When it comes to certain applications, you know, a lot of techs and a lot of mechanics, they work with what they basically have at their disposal at the particular time. I do not suggest to use chrome on impacts. Okay. I always suggest to use impacts for impact applications. All right. I will get out my 1/4-inch hex driver to give you a good example, just as well as I'm gonna get out a couple of other sockets to show you the differential between normal standard socket, which is type thick testically, compared to these Milwaukee 1/4-inch thin walls. So let's get it. Okay, now as you can see, I have a few items sitting at the top of the tool cart. Okay, which you're basically taking a look at over here. These are not 1/4-inch impact sockets. These are half-inch drive, 1-inch impact sockets. Okay, the impact socket that is to the far right is a Stillman Pro 1-inch impact socket, and towards the left is a Gray Pneumatic 1-inch. Okay, as you can see here. Okay, it's a GP. This is made in Taiwan here, and then as you can also see, if it focuses in, that this is Stillman Pro. Okay, now the reason why I pulled these out, okay, is so that you can take a good look at the thickness, okay, between the deep impacts, all right, testically compared to a thin wall. Okay, so in some applications where it may be hard to get into with a more thicker socket, this is why I choose to use certain thin wall sets. I also use Stillman Pro thin wall flip sockets. Okay, when it comes to these 1-inches here, the diameter for each socket are slightly the same. See if I can get it stacked up, but I believe that the Gray Pneumatic is coming in a little bit more thicker on the diameter. I'm not quite sure whether you can really tell in the video, okay, but the Gray Pneumatic is coming in slightly a little bit more wider in diameter. As you can see, there is a difference in the length of the two. And as you can see, the Gray Pneumatic is a longer socket testically compared to the Stillman Pro 1-inch. Okay. Once again, these are 1/4 inch and they are considered to be deep impact, but you can also see the difference. Okay. So they're labeled to be deep impacts, but they are at a semi length in 1/4 inch. Okay. As you can see back over here, now I have my 1/4 inch hex out with a 1/4 inch hex adapter. Okay. Towards the gun. This is a 10 millimeter that I actually have on a 1/4 inch hex at the prior moment. Okay. So, in instances when doing underbody work, I would like to go with the thin walls. Okay. Because the application requires less torque, less force applied, to certain particular fasteners. You don't want to go too hard in certain applications because you're basically bound to share something off or break something. Okay. You're not trying to work backwards and things like that. All right. Another feature to mention when it comes to these thin wall Milwaukee impact socket sets is that the foaming is removable from the trays, to keep things well organized, where that you can testically get them, in your drawers and get a good layout depending upon what type of sets that you technically have. Like I said, as you can see in quite a few of my videos, you can tell that I have sockets of all sorts of different measurements, all sorts of different sizes, different types of sockets. But once again, there is a reason for me to have the type of sockets that I basically have, because in certain brands that I have, they don't require certain features, just as well as what I'm showing you here in these Milwaukee thin walls. I have snap-on 1/4 inch deeps, semi-deeps, shallows, whether it's impact or chrome sockets. But once again, I tend to use the right equipment for the right applications. Okay. Like I state, not all technicians work the same way. Some technicians and mechanics out there, they work with what they have, you know what I'm saying? And they try to do their best with whatever they have at their disposal. Okay. Fortunately, when it comes to my equipment and how I work, I work around having the correct tools to be more efficient when it comes to certain particular applications. So this is why I have, certain equipment the way that I technically have it. So, in certain situations where you can't get in with a thicker socket, and say the application doesn't require as much as torque and much as force, I would suggest to have a thin wall socket. So, once again, when it comes to 1/2 inch drive applications, not so much of 3/8 drive applications, because it's not going to be that many occasions that you may need a thin wall in a 3/8 application. But it's not to say that it's not possible. Okay, because there may be certain instances where technically you may need that thin wall, or you may need that stubby socket or low profile socket or low clearance adapter, and so on and so forth. Each application is different, and each individual works differently. Sometimes it's not even about individual working more different than another. Sometimes individuals' physical chemistry can play a factor on things too, because you have some individuals who are more bigger than others. Some individuals have more bigger hands than others. So the more bigger your hands, it's less room for you to get access, because it's hard for you to maneuver around. See, I'm an individual who have a little bit more smaller hands, so it's more easier for me to maneuver around certain particular obstacles, okay, where that some individuals may not necessarily be able to maneuver around. This is why I like to go to my snap-on bent handle flex head, non-flex head ratchet when I'm using that in certain particular applications, because it allows me to maneuver around a lot of different obstacles, even though technically I do have a lot of different ratchets in my selection at my disposal. But once again, each ratchet serves its own purpose when called upon. So this is why they are in place the way that they are. Okay. Okay, so pretty much we're gonna wrap this video up right about here. All right, once again, everybody enjoy the rest of the evening. Always keep it a safe and a blessed one as always. Until that next tool review, that next tool haul, that next modification video. Okay, everyone keep it safe out there. Peace.